It's not going to be real. Hello, and welcome to the Toppcast. Today we're going to talk a little bit about procrastination. Now, procrastination happens to all of us, and it is okay. Sometimes, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll just not feel like writing, or I'll come home from work, which is also in the morning, and I don't feel like writing anything. So it's all about mindset. Now, delays are okay, but it's how you treat those delays that really matters. And you gotta be careful, because if you delay too much, it can lead to the dreaded writer's block. When I hit writer's block, I hit it somewhere in between the first and second act, because I didn't know exactly how my characters were gonna get out of a certain situation without making it seem terribly cheesy or convenient. So that was just a concept that was really difficult for me to execute properly, or at least what I think was properly. So what I did, I like going onto Pinterest and I typed in fantasy pictures, just some average, just random things to kind of spark the imagination in my mind to what scene I wanted to work with between those acts, right? And it worked. I was able to come up with a whole scene that now, I just use it as inspiration. I don't copy from it. So so then I have, my demon army coming in at that point, and that was like the first interaction that the main characters have with the dreaded fog that has been talked about but never really seen before. And I introduced them in the first act so that they can become a primary problem, I suppose, just one of them. Definitely the demon army coming in at that point was a catalyst for my novel to move forward. So that's just one of the things, at least, that I do to get out of writer's block. Now, deadlines can be helpful. Some people work well under stress, saying, okay, by this point next month, I'll have written 20,000 words. You can make it 10,000 words, you can make it even 1,000 words. The whole point is that you're supposed to be writing, right? So making these deadlines can help. Some people don't work well under pressure, so if you're one of those that don't work well under pressure, then just discard this advice, I guess. Sometimes you just have to write in order to write. Not everything that you write is going to be just a masterpiece. Some pieces, in fact, a lot of what I've written isn't that great. Now, in my opinion, I can do better, and I'm working to do better. But I know and I understand that this first novel isn't going to be a breakout hit piece that I'm going to be known for. In fact, it's most likely going to go under the radar for quite a long time before it actually takes traction. It's just one of those things that I'm accepting and I expect from this book. But that's the whole point. Like, I wrote this novel and I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of it, but I know I can do better, and my writing is improving as I continue to publish books and make books, make series. So that's just an ongoing thing for me, and as it should be. No writer should ever be stagnant. I don't want Knights Without Kings to be my magnum opus, because that kind of suck. Your first book ever, that's your magnum opus, and then all the books from there are not as good. I don't want that to be the case. I want my magnum opus to be a little bit further down the road once I've improved my craft and once I've improved my writing. But in order to improve your writing, you have to write. And if you're not writing anything, if you're waiting for your muse, I guess, if you're waiting for inspiration, it's never going to come. So you write in order to get through the slog that you're in, and then once you're out, you go back and rewrite or re-edit or change things that you don't like or add things that you do like. That's the whole point. Just get to the end. On the first draft, that's the only objective you should have, is just to get to the end. And obviously, it's not just say that just don't care about what you're doing. Obviously, you have to put time, effort, and care into these things that you're writing, but at the same time, you remember, you're not going to be critiqued as soon as it's done, boom, send to the editor. No, that's not the way it works. So take it easy, relax. It's okay to have a little bit of time, but remember, even on the days where you are procrastinating, write something, write anything, even if it's 10 words. Write a sentence, because as long as you're writing, you're keeping up your craft and you're making progress on the book that's taking you forever to write. Because the moment you set down your pen or you close your laptop and you don't write for a week, that's a lost week that you're never going to be able to recover in terms of writing. So, at least a little bit. If you're stuck at a place, just write a little bit. And what's really helpful for writing like this is adopting a routine. Now, usually I write in the mornings, between 10, sometimes I'll go a little bit earlier. At 9, I'll go to a Market Street, or I'll go to a coffee shop, and I'll write there for a few hours. Usually I do this on my days off, but when I am working, I'll write a little bit in the afternoon, like at night, like around 5 or 6. I'll make myself a nice cup of coffee, write for a little bit, and then go to work. That's just the routine that I have for myself, and usually it works. But right now I'm writing The Twin Princes, which is a sequel to The Knights Without Kings, and like I said, I'm editing through it. Like, it's mostly done, but there are a couple chapters that need to be completed, so I'm working on that little by little. Writer's block is already gone because I've already finished the book. Mostly, there is one scene where I do have writer's block, and what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of avoiding it. I'm going to other parts of the book and filling in those chapters. But at some point, I will have to address this problem. And I guess the sooner I do it, the better it'll be. So I'm going to take my own advice as well as give it. The second thing you should do is adopt a location. I mentioned a coffee shop. Usually I go to Starbucks. Sometimes I'll go to JB Coffee. It's a local coffee shop. So adopt a coffee shop that you like and get to know they're not bartenders. There's a specific word for them. Get to know the what are their names? Let's see. What do you call a coffee maker person? Barista. Yeah, get to know your barista. and go there, right there, and like I said, stay focused on your work. If you're working on a specific project, let me just mention, this is one of the biggest problems that I find with other writers, is they have 5 or 6 projects going on at once. And it's like, what progress are you getting done? If you work on every one of your projects, you're not going to get any of them done. So unless you've got some strange talent that you can work on like 5 books and actually finish 5 books at once, which I don't think you have. I don't have that for sure. But unless you have that, focus on one thing. Now, what I do, like I said, I'm working on Twin Princes right now, but I'm writing a short story series every Monday. So on Mondays, that's the day that I write my short story series, right? And which will be released in a couple years. But then the whole rest of the week is devoted to Twin Princes. So if you want to have another project, because us new writers definitely like multitasking with that, I guess, pick one main project and say, this is the project I'm going to dedicate 90% of my time to. And then pick a secondary project and then devote 10% of your time to that. Pick a day and be like, this is the day that I'm working on this small project, and then the rest of the time it's this one because this is more important and this is going to come out sooner. So this is just a little piece of advice if that's what you want. The next thing I want to talk about is drafting. So sometimes when it helps to avoid procrastination, or it helps avoiding hitting that writer's block, is making an outline or a draft. Now, some people may disagree with this. They say I am a plotter or a pantser. So this is what it is. So plotters make the outlines, they make the backstories, they make the world building, and they're more prepared for the main story way before they actually have to write it. The downfall of a plotter is that they stay plotting for way too long. Like, they're making the backstory, they're making the world building of all these things in all these places, and they never actually get to write the story that they're plotting for. So that's one of the downsides of plotting. And then you have pantsters, on the other hand, which do absolutely no preparation, and they just start writing. And the downfall of this is you don't have world building elements that you might need later, and you have to go back and fill them, or you don't have character descriptions and character arcs. Sometimes pantsters will, as they're writing, they'll take a break and then start writing a character and then filling the background for that. And then once it's already done, they go back and continue writing it. So that's not the style I do. I'm basically a plotter. I do like 50-50. So basically I'll plot, I'll do the backstory of the story, I guess, and then fill in a lot of character arcs and their background, I suppose. Then I'll go back to writing. But then if a new character comes into the mix, I'll do the same thing, make the character thing and then go back. So, if you're a well-balanced writer and do kind of a mixture of both, I think that's like a hybrid writer. If you're a hybrid writer, there we go, coin this term right here, hybrid writer. If you're a hybrid writer, then I think you get the best of both worlds, and you're better prepared for the story, and you're better prepared in case you do encounter writer's block or procrastination. Remember what I said, any writing is good writing, and we all get those discouraging days. Those days where you look at your sales online and you're like, wow, this only sold like 2-3 copies, and or man, I haven't even got my first book out. How am I ever going to compete with all these other people that are very successful? Well, that's true. I mean, those days suck, right? Because it gives you a little dose of reality as to what you're up against. But don't get discouraged by that. Remember to keep your head down and write, because that is the most important thing. You want to continue writing that story. You want to continue moving forward, progressing it. Listen, you're never going to be you're never going to be Tolkien, right? You're never going to be Martin, G.R. Martin. But that doesn't matter. That should not be your goal. Your goal should be to entertain a few people, because even if a few people get a message out of your book that they otherwise would not have had, you've made your goal. And that should be your ultimate objective, is to entertain, to share a message, even if it's about yourself, and let everything else do the rest. People like good stories. So if you're writing a good story that's engaging for the sake of the story and not for money or fame, you're going to make it. Now, that's not just to say, now, I'm not like guaranteeing success by saying, well, write a good story, you're automatically, guaranteed success. Success is random. Random people get success. People who write cliched stories that have absolutely no substance to them, with no character development, they're completely flat, make it to the New York Times best-selling list. And then people that write heartfelt stories about deep and dark things, or even very compelling stories, go under the radar for years and years and years and never get any exposure until the author's dead, which that's probably what's going to happen to me. I'm going to die, and then the books that I write, then they're going to start making famous. So I'm never going to see the money off these books. I'm never going to see. I think I've accepted my fate that's going to happen. Now remember to rewrite, but only after the first draft is finished. There is very little point to rewrites. Now, see, I know you writers. A lot of you out there like to write one chapter and then go back and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. But don't. Like a pioneer through the wilderness, you must fight and struggle and move on. Remember, you write your way through that slog. Then, once you're done, you go back and rewrite. Now, a good way to stay on track is to have an author friend help you. Now, what this means is basically find a day which you and this other author friend that you have, hopefully you have author friends. If you don't, find some. They're really easy to find locally. Go to Facebook, and that's a really good place to find friends that write. And if they're not friends, well, go and meet them and make friends. But the point is, if you have someone who is a writer like you, and you meet with them and you share your progress with them, or lack of progress with them, the idea is that they help you and they push you forward as you write your journey as you write your way through this journey. I have this author friend of mine now. Because of the holidays, we weren't able to really meet so much, so very soon we're going to start meeting up again, and that's the whole purpose. I'm going to be showing her the progress that I'm making, and she's going to show me the progress that she's making, and together the idea is we'll get to our goals, and she'll be able to publish this book that she's been working on, and I'll be able to publish my book that I'm working on. That's the whole idea. So you have someone who watches your back in terms of writing and keeps you honest and focused. So another way that I keep procrastination and writer's block at bay is a notebook. Basically, this notebook is kind of like my soul. Every idea that I have is in these pages, and these are all the projects that I've been working on. So I know I said a little bit about focus on projects, but remember, writers tend to love to have multiple projects, but I keep it, like I said, just down to 2. So this is the Twin Princes checklist, and I just write little notes, things that I need to remember in this book. And I take this book with me everywhere. My friends at work, they all know it because they see it all the time that I take it out of my bag whenever I first get to work, just in case, if I have a little idea, write it down. I write it down so that I won't forget it. Now, Stephen King is one of the greatest authors of all time, and he had this to say about notebook keeping.
But people will say, do you keep a notebook? And the answer is, I think a writer's notebook is the best way in the world to immortalize bad ideas.
I respect the King, right? I think I don't necessarily like all of his works, but I definitely respect what he has done, that he is basically the king of the writing industry. But I disagree with his ideas on notebooks, because first of all, he says it's a good way to immortalize bad ideas. Well, you're not going to publish this journal, right? No one else is going to see this except for you. So keep it. And you know what? I keep mine, and then I'll go back and look at some of the dumb ideas that I had, and it'll make me laugh. It's interesting what idea I had of my book at the beginning versus when it's done. it's vastly different. Like I have friends that I gave the first and second chapters to read as soon as I was done with them, which is a bad idea. You know, you don't want to give the first chapter as soon as you write it to a friend for them to read, because it is very incomplete. That is not what's going to happen. It's not going to be probably even a part of it towards the end of the book. At least that's what, or at least, you know, towards the end of writing the book. And that's kind of my experience. You know, the first and second chapters look vastly different now than when they did 2.5 years ago when I started. But I learned from that. So keeping a notebook and keeping these ideas on paper helps me remember and say, oh yeah, I remember I was going to do this with this character, so I go ahead and write it. Or saying, oh, I remembered I was going to do this with this character, but now this character is doing something totally different, so I'm going to cancel out this idea and move on. So just because you write something in your notebook doesn't mean you have to do it. And the same thing with outlines. Just because you have an outline, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the bullet points, right? This character's going to do this, and he's going to say this, but then you have something else happen. That's totally okay. Your draft, your outline should be just a guide. It's not a rule book. Your notebook should just be a guide. You, at the end of the day, are a master of the ship you sail on. So you're going to guide your ship through those writing waters, and you're going to write your way to the end, to the goal. Now, if you're stuck, try writing your current project in 3 sentences or less. Like, try writing a summary of your project in 3 sentences. And the purpose isn't to draft. Like I said, the purpose is to build momentum, is to remember where you are, to remember the ultimate objective with your novel. And then hopefully from there, you can move forward. Yeah, if you're experiencing writer's block and you're stuck and you can't get out of it, try these tips that I've presented here, and maybe you disagree with them. And if you do disagree with them, I'd like to hear... Oh no. So hopefully this helped. If you disagree with some of the things that I've said here, I'd like to hear about it in the comments. This is not me educating you or telling you what to do. This is just my opinion on how to write. And if you disagree with it, I'd very much like to hear your thoughts. So yeah, please comment below. And follow me on Facebook. I'm most active there as opposed to anywhere else. So link is also going to be in the description. But that's it for today, and I hope you have an amazing week, okay? You be safe out there. People are crazy. So you be careful. Bye.
I was born in a prison.